settled and relaxed for a holiday weekend. The NBA just sweeps you right off your feet without even dribbling a ball. Max, John, on SportsCenter, there's no such thing as an offseason.
I just want to know if it's safe to talk to you now or if that's tampering. I don't know all the rules involved here, but let the free agency agreements and talent trading begin. Kevin Durant, who wants him? Because Thursday he made himself available, asking the Brooklyn Nets owner for a trade. The price tag is going to be hefty, but so is the ability. Guy's still a top 3 player, ridiculously good scorer. Durant, 3 seasons in Brooklyn, played in 2 of them. The basketball dynamic with friend Kyrie Irving just did not manifest itself in any significant success on the floor. Woj is here to talk about it now, literally carving out time for SportsCenter, one of the busiest days on your calendar. Woj, KD, Kyrie, that's the championship duo. Why is it that one guy, Irving, opts in and suddenly Durant wants out?
You know, I think Kevin Durant wanted to try to get Kyrie Irving a long-term deal in Brooklyn, just like Kyrie Irving wanted it. They did not get it from the organization. And I think once he had to opt into that contract and essentially was playing on an expiring contract, you know, even at that point, the communication between the organization and Kevin Durant had really ceased to exist. And even after he opted in, you know, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving have not been engaging with the organization. There was a sense around Brooklyn and a sense around the league as teams were preparing to make offers that Kevin Durant was going to ask out at some point in the offseason. It came today. And I think so much of it, you talk to people around Kevin Durant, and the disappointment around this team, the underachieving of this era, and then the Golden State Warriors winning a championship this year in the aftermath of Durant leaving. And I think all that came with that, the criticism, the second guessing, all of that contributed to what happened today when I'm told Kevin Durant called Joe Tsai, the Nets owner, and told him essentially, I need a change of scenery. I want you to trade me.
So many would obviously welcome Durant, but few are able. Where are viable suitors in trade partners?
Well, here's what I think really opens up the market and makes this such a unique circumstance is that Durant has 4 years left on his deal. And usually a player of that stature, if he's got 1 or 2 years left, he can say, hey, if you trade for me and you gas all your assets, I'm going to leave in a year in free agency. He's got to go play. Now, teams are going to measure, do I want an unhappy Kevin Durant there? I think the ferocity of calls tonight, I'm told, to Brooklyn immediately and all night was significant. There's really never been a player on the market, you know, certainly at the apex of his talent. This is new for everybody. And whether this is a quick process, a long process, sometimes it takes on a momentum of its own. But this is a chance for even a smaller market team that has good young players, that has lots of draft picks, to say, we can't get a Kevin Durant unless we draft him and develop him. We can get him now if we're willing to give up an immense haul. And that's what the Nets want. They see this as a chance to get a historic return on Kevin Durant's value.
So they're able to move KD. We say that happens. Next for Kyrie Irving's what?
I have a hard time imagining a scenario where Kyrie Irving is back and Kevin Durant isn't. And listen, the Nets could drag this out. They could play the long game. If they don't like the deals they have, they can threaten to bring all of these guys to training camp. But I think that there's a momentum with this. And, you know, for teams who are talent-starved, who maybe need one more elite player to think they're contenders, he's a risk. He's a big risk, but he is playing for a contract. I do think there will be, and there is a market for that with Kyrie Irving. You know, some people have asked, is there a Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving trade together somewhere? I don't have a sense that that's unveiled itself yet, but this thing just started today.
Yeah, that's Woj dripping with information and more of it to come in the coming days. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
So when our man Woj broke the news of Durant's trade request, Caesars Sportsbook moved the Nets title odds from 7.5 to 1 to 30 to 1. They quadrupled, and not in a good way. Through the teams on Durant's wish list, Phoenix and Miami saw their odds shrink, and the Suns are now the favorites at 5.5 to 1. And we're back, and we're handing out ludicrous amounts of money. In Memphis, Ja Morant, J.A. is cashing in with a guaranteed 5-year, $193 million rookie extension. Becomes the third Grizzly player to make All-NBA, along with Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph. Karl Anthony Towns and the Timberwolves agreed to a 4-year, $224 million extension. Cat led Minnesota to the playoffs for the first time since 2018. His college teammate, Devin Booker, finalizing the same extension with Phoenix. He already held the most lucrative deal in Suns history. Now will surpass that mark again. 4 years, $224 million, and that's without a Kardashian involved. Reigning two-time MVP, Nikola Jokic, agreed to a 5-year whopper, $270 million extension with the Nuggets, the richest in NBA history. Joker became the 13th player to win back-to-back MVPs. All-Star guard Bradley Beal joining the Max Club. 5 years, $251 million. He will stay with the Wizards. Played a career-low 40 games last season. Ready to go again next year.
I don't look at myself as a savior.
Durant looking for the dagger.
But I know what I can do.
You know who I am. Y'all know who I am. You know, I'm Kevin Durant.
Yes! Kevin Durant!
I just want to keep going up. You should have hated a little more, 'cause really it ain't doing enough.
All right, so voices of the NBA went on social media to try and recruit KD after he requested a trade from the Nets. Here's Joel Troel Embiid saying LOL. More chips. Ja Morant tweeted easy money to try to get him down to Memphis. And then from the Magic, I'm not sure if he has this much demand already. Paolo Banchero says, don't sleep on getting KD down to Disney World, a.k.a. Orlando, Florida, earlier this week before the trade was even requested. Dame Dollar, an edited picture of the two in a Blazers uniform. They had their shot many years ago, I will say that. And another tweet, Kyle Kuzma trying to get him down to D.C. Oh, this is about to be great with some popcorn emojis right there. And remember, he is from Prince George's County, just outside of D.C. And then Devontae Adams, the Raiders, Devontae Adams, trying to get him in Vegas alongside Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. The league is in trouble. Only time will tell. Well, we did once see Durant Moss, LeBron James in a flag football game. But to answer where KD could go on the basketball court, you already know who he is right there. Front office insider Bobby Marks' son, and the Heat are on KD's wish list. My question for you, Bobby, how do these numbers work?
Well, it's going to be a challenge. First, Kevin doesn't have a no-trade clause, and you've got to get close to $36 million. We can take Devin Booker off the board. He cannot be traded to the Nets because they have Ben Simmons. You cannot have two players who signed a designated rookie extension. So Booker is off the board. Now we're looking at possibly DeAndre Ayton, who's a free agent. It would have to be a sign-and-trade. Mikal Bridges. We're basically going to be adding up numbers here. Landry Shamet, Jay Crowder, a young player like Cam Johnson. The hard part with Brooklyn is as long as they have Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons with Kevin Durant there, they are going to be a hard cap team. So they cannot take Ayton back in a trade unless Irving is off the roster. So Phoenix is challenged. They can certainly add all their draft picks, but it would start with Bridges. I would say highly unlikely as far as an Ayton-type package.
This is very interesting to me. All right, so what about the Miami Heat now?
Well, we're going to run into the same problem also with the Miami Heat. And we're going to pull them up here
because they have Jimmy Butler there.
Well, they do. And I think if you're Brooklyn, I would want Bam Adebayo. But here's the problem. Same rule. He signed that designated rookie extension also. A team cannot have two players that were acquired in the trade. You already have Ben Simmons. You cannot add Bam Adebayo unless Ben Simmons is off the roster here. So now what are we looking at? I don't think Jimmy Butler fits as far as where this rebuild is going to go. Great player. Neither does Kyle Lowry. Now you're just looking at Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and as we said, you basically have to get to $36 million in salary to send back. So you're running out of options here. So the Heat are challenged just like the Suns are also.
All right, we will be following it all. That man to my left already, front office insider Bobby Marks. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Richard Jefferson weighs in on the Kevin Durant trade sweepstakes, where he says KD fits best. That's ahead on SportsCenter. Are more money being thrown around Thursday? Jalen Brunson has agreed to sign with the Knicks for 4 years, $104 million. That's the fourth $100 million contract the Knicks have handed out in franchise history.
Brooklyn. A brief review of KD's time with the Nets 3 years ago Thursday. Woj reported Durant and Kyrie agreeing to join forces in Brooklyn. KD, fresh off a 3-year stint, a couple of championships with the Warriors. Durant missed all of his first season in Brooklyn. Torn Achilles because of the 2019 finals. Irving played just 20 games that season. Year 2, the Nets were a half shoe size away from the Eastern Conference Finals. Durant tied Game 7 against the Bucks with a second left, but they lost in OT. This past year, Durant scored nearly 30 a game, but his running mate Kyrie only played 29 games. Brooklyn then eventually swept by the Celtics in the first round of the playoffs. Thursday, Durant went to Nets ownership, requested a trade, almost certainly bring an end to his time in Brooklyn. Richard Jefferson is schooled in the ways of NBA basketball. 17 years in the league give you that kind of basketball business smarts. Richard, the Nets were title favorites at the beginning of the season. Now we're tearing it all down. Where did this thing go sideways to you?
I just think ultimately their franchise, which was built based off of chemistry, Sean Marks, Kenny Atkinson, they really turned around the franchise after, a very, very tough stretch. And then they made it such an inviting place that free agents wanted to come, Kyrie and KD. But I think ultimately, they just couldn't get the chemistry together. They brought in James Harden trying to give some support. But I think this was less about the basketball talent and more about the individuals and their inability to come together for a common goal.
Before I let you go, give me a favorable spot for Kevin Durant to land out of all of this.
I think right now when you look at the Phoenix Suns, when you look at the Pelicans, but I think a sleeper team could pop in if they could now start moving some assets and make themselves more of an attractable space, not only for Kevin Durant, but also in the assets that they can offer to the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, so I lied. I got one more since you're a Phoenix guy. How does he fit if he goes to the Valley of the Sun? They go cuckoo for him.
You say it's Kevin Durant and it's the fit, but we've also seen that, look, the fit in Brooklyn was not a great fit. And so I won't sit up here and say, well, Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players we've ever seen. We know all of that. But I think it's a matter of how, mentally and emotionally players get to a space. If he's sitting there with Chris Paul and Devin Booker, obviously that's going to be an elite team. And I think all of those guys, one thing that I remember from Kevin Durant, he just wanted to play basketball. When he left OKC to go to Golden State, forget all the heat. Look at the way Golden State played, the ball movement, the sharing of the ball, the culture that was already established there in Golden State. So I think he just wants to go. Phoenix, that would be a good move in my opinion because you have so much talent there and they actually have the depth. Now, is that going to work out? Are they going to be able to offer that package? Because, you look at, some of these other guys, you might want an all-star. You might not want a guy that's a 19-10 guy, and you're like, hey, maybe DeAndre Ayton could improve. No, I want a guy that's proven that he can be an all-star, but we'll see how those packages work out.
That is RJ talking about KD. Richard Jefferson, bear down, man.
Bear down. Thank you for having me.